Friday. That means it's dessert day at my house. I'm going to show you a quick little something to do with some apples. Make an apple crisp. Doesn't take long. First we want to put, this may be about 5 apples. I usually like to use 3 regular apples, it'd be whatever you want, and 2 Granny Smith. A little bit of sour to the sweet. But it doesn't have to be just apples. If you want to use some pears in there, they work fine also. So you want them to like cook down till they start getting tender. I use 2 tablespoons of vegetarian butter. And apples, they hold a lot of water, so the water will start cooking out of them as they go. But that water you're going to use for their juice. So you can just leave it in there and let them get tender. As they're getting tender, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of vanilla to that. A little bit more. I like vanilla. This is organic, pure vanilla. I usually like vanilla from Trader Joe. I'm a Trader Joe nut. So they also have a bourbon vanilla that's really excellent. About 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And it depends on how sweet you want it. I don't always have it very sweet, so about a half a cup of packed brown sugar. You want to use natural sugar. People use white sugar. I'm not a big fan of white sugar, but so this is what I do. Because you're also going to put some sugar in the crisp. So I got about a half a cup in here where it's going to cook down. And I also like to have that mapley kind of flavor. So if you have some maple syrup, put about 2 or 3 tablespoons of maple syrup in there. I got a corner left and I'm going to put it right in there. You want to cook them down till they're just tender. They don't have to be overcooked because they're going to go in the oven. As it's cooked for a minute, I'm going to tell you about the toppings. After it's gotten to a certain, just a little tender, I'm going to add a little cornstarch to thicken up that juice in there. Okay, then for my toppings, so the topping, the crisp, that's the important part. A good friend of mine, hi cook, showed me how to make this topping. I grate 7 tablespoons of vegan butter. And the reason I grate it is because, say that 3 times fast, is because it makes the butter grate up evenly. If you could break it up with your hand, but you're going to get some lumps, some small pieces, some big pieces. Another half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of flour, all-purpose flour, a cup to a cup and a half, depending on you, of plain oatmeal. It can be instant oatmeal, but it has to be plain oatmeal. Okay? And a teaspoon of baking powder. And that's your crisp right there. So now what I'm going to do, my apples are about tender. I'm going to turn them off. Also, your butter has to be ice cold. Put it in the freezer. The butter has to be ice cold. After you make your crisp, you're going to sit it back in the freezer and let it stay in there for about a half hour or so, or until you're ready to fix it. Now, about a teaspoon, because you don't want it too thick. I get a little bit of the juice off of it, because if you pour it directly in there, it's going to clump up. So you have to mix it before you pour it in there, because you don't want a little white clumps in your apples. Then you can just pour it in there and mix it all in there, and that's going to thicken up immediately. So now my apples are ready to go. I like it because the crisp is your topping, and you don't have a crust, but it's a little lighter than the apple pie, which I like. You get more of the apples. So now that you've mixed that cornstarch in there good, I oil or put a little butter in the bottom of a baking dish. Pour all of that in there. Oh. You don't want to handle this too much, so everything you do, try not to handle the butter because the heat from your hands is going to melt the butter. But now you're ready to top it. And keep it in the freezer. Once again, keep it in the freezer till you're ready to use it. Then you're going to just place it on, even though it's hot, you're gonna go right on top of your apples. I like to let the apples cool down a little more than this, but I'm gonna bake this right now, so, and all of this can be in there. You wanna cover it completely. Very simple recipe, but it's a nice Sunday dessert, or we have a dessert on Fridays. There we go. Now, one last thing I sometimes do, I like to do a little oil spray. It's a little too close. I just give it a little spray over the top, and there we go. Put this in the oven at 380 for about 30 minutes, and you got apple crisp. And I'll show you at the end. Be back.